Well, Professor Gross, thank you for a thought-provoking, provocative presentation. Certainly lots of food for discussion and food for thought in that, I think. And I think in a forum like this, it's important to get a range of views and a range of perspectives. So our next speaker is Pnina Sharvit Baruch. Pnina is a senior research associate at INSS. She's also a professor, or associate professor at Tel Aviv University, so she teaches, she's in academics. Interestingly, though, she's got a security or IDF background. So she retired from the Israeli Defense Force in 2009. She served 20 years there in the International Law Department. For the last 5, she was the senior legal advisor responsible in charge of the International Law Department. So she's got a wealth of practical experience advising on international humanitarian law and operational law issues. And so without further ado, Pnina.
Okay, so I have a presentation prepared, and now I have to respond to Eyal. So I have to change a little bit of what I said, but I'll still go back to my presentation and start by saying, first of all, thank you. Thank you in general. I'm not thanking the INSS because I work here, but I do thank the ICRC, not only for this conference. I think the ICRC, I always say, it is important for me to say, just because of my background, that the ICRC has a very important role. In exactly doing what we're trying to do here, talk and see how we can fight these kinds of complicated conflicts in populated areas and still retain our values and still abide by the law. And the ICRC has an important role in helping us do this and in helping the victims also on the other side, on both sides, mainly on the other side where they need the help more. And I think by being there, by having the ability to consult with them, by getting from them their allegations and their criticism and their harsh words sometimes, as long as it's done discreetly, it is a very useful and important element that helps us. And what I think makes them unique, oops, I'm revealing my, what makes them unique is that they are experts. They really understand what they're talking about. And that's why when you talk to the ICRC and you talk about operational stuff and you talk about the dilemmas, they understand the dilemmas. They've been there, they've been in other, they have more experience than we have. And that's a very different level of discussion. When we talk to NGOs that come from human rights organizations, it depends, and they're not the enemy, and they're not terrorist organizations, but sometimes it's difficult because we feel that we are talking two different languages, that we come with certain understandings that are shared, for example, by the ICRC, and we are talking, and we are getting responses that are in a different level completely, which make it very difficult. It's still, I think, an important dialogue that has to be carried out. I think it's very important still to get all the information from these bodies. I was saddened to hear that some said they might not cooperate. That's a mistake, I think, because this dialogue is very important. And while Eyal seems to have lost belief in our or the IDF or Israel's intentions to act and to do the right thing, I that come from the system do believe in that. And I think these NGOs can help us do that better. So now, again, following Eyal is exactly exemplifies what Lori spoke about and others. The complex, one of the challenges that we have is the issue of legality and legitimacy. Because when you see this clip of Beit Hanun, and when you hear the story of this person sitting in a cafe, watching the Mondial, and suddenly finding himself injured and people killed around him, what can you say? There's no good answer. It's terrible. It's terrible. There's people being killed. When I was a legal advisor in Cost-Led, I used to sit in the meetings, in the decisions made. 2 carry out attacks the next day, sometimes the same day. And then I forced myself to go and watch not only the Israeli television that shows what we want to see, but the BBC and the CNN and Al Jazeera, and see all these terrible pictures and see what we are doing is doing to the other side. And I think we have to see that, we have to understand that. And my job, I think, as a legal advisor, and I think not only my job as a legal advisor, but the job of all the people, the commanders also in the IDF, is to do what we can to minimize that. But when you are in the system, you also understand that it is sometimes inevitable. That if we had a better choice, we would prefer it by far. And I think protective edge is, and we're not talking about protective edge, you can read our articles in the publication, it's on the website. And I have an article there about legality and legitimacy and protective edge, and I'm not going to talk about it here, but I do think that it does exemplify one point, because that was, in this case, it was very clear what Israel wanted was quiet. And Israel was offering all the time, quiet for quiet. Okay? I don't want to say it in English, doesn't sound so good, but stop firing, we'll stop firing. That's all we wanted to get. But when it doesn't work, when the other side continues for its reasons to do it, what do you do? And I can say that one option is not to do anything and just trust our good shelters and the Iron Dome. But that's not really an option. And even if it is an option, you don't have to take that option. You do have a legal option to do something which is legal and react. And when you do react forcefully in these circumstances, after the explanations that were given on the way the other side operates, you will have these terrible pictures, and you'll have these terrible pictures of the bodies that we didn't see, and thank you, Eyal, for not showing those, but we have to see them also, and we have to look at them and see them and think about the children that were killed on the other side and see what we can do to minimize that, but we also have to sometimes understand that it is not something we wanted to happen, and still it is inevitable. But now I'll go to my presentation. So, no, not yet. Okay. I'm giving you the first. I wanted to, since I'm the one standing between you and lunch, not to go into theoretical legal discussion, and it was already done. Distinction, proportionality, you've all been already experts, I think, on that. But to talk about, okay, we have the scenario, the enemy is firing rockets, any attempt to make it stop peacefully has not succeeded. There is now a directive, make them stop. Okay, now we come, you're all joining me to the bor, we call it in Hebrew, okay? Underground headquarters where the decisions are made what to attack. The next day, the planning, we are now in the planning forum, and the commander says, okay, we have 4 options. 4 possible options of targeting. The one is there are launchers in residential houses. They're using these launchers. Sometimes the operative stands next to it and launches it. Now we have also new things. They have remote controls. So the launcher is here. The operative is underground somewhere or over there. People are around. We have warned the area in general, but many people have stayed behind, or we haven't warned this area. There are civilians around. We try to warn them, but also we cannot, if we give specific warnings before we launch the attack. So the launcher will, it's a portable launcher. It will go, won't be there. The operative that is near the launcher in these cases will not be there anymore. So there's a bit of a problem to give very specific warnings. And even when we do, they don't always leave. The launchers are important. Each launcher that I here will eliminate, that we will eliminate, doesn't make such a big difference because they have thousands of them. But there is an overall impact of taking out these launchers, so we want to get as many launchers as possible. Again, each one of them is not so important. The aggregate weight of getting a lot of them out of the way is important, but civilians will be killed. We don't know exactly how many. We can estimate some kind of estimation, some maybe 10, 20, that's around the number. Might be at least severely injured or even killed. So that's one option. The second option, the commander says, okay, we have some senior operatives that are hiding in their headquarters. And they left their homes. These homes, where they came from, they operated there, they're not there now. We can warn the people that are living in these houses or next to them to leave them, so we can attack with quite a high level of certainty that no civilian will be harmed. This will influence the motivation of the commanders. They will be worried what's happening with their houses, what's happening with their families. That might make them come out of their hiding places, and then we can get them. It might affect their motivations. This is option number 2. Then we have option number 3. It says, okay, we have this civilian or this symbol of as Minister Livni spoke about, the symbols of the government of the other side. Now they use the civilian infrastructure. Let's say it's an office of the welfare services, but we know that they use it to give payments to all the families of the shaheeds, to all the families of those killed in action and all those committing terrorist attacks in the past. They get their allowances there. And it's a very symbolic place, very important for the enemy. And option number 4, we have the headquarters of the enemy. The most senior commanders are there. They have good still control over what's happening. If we get them there, it will influence the activity of the operatives that are outside the headquarters too. The only problem is that his headquarters are under the main hospital in the other side. Okay, these are the options. Now, there aren't any other options. Okay, in this case, and I can tell you in many cases, I'm not saying that this is only examples. The good thing, I wasn't there in Protective Edge. Everything I'm talking about is theoretical. Okay, so these are the options that the commander is now giving, but that's what you have. I mean, it's not that there's an excellent other option. Their main military base, there's no such thing. Okay, so these are the options. Now the commander says, okay, now let me start analyzing from my perspective as a commander or as a minister. We heard the minister beforehand. It can also be the level, the governmental level. Let me prioritize. So let's see. The launches are very important because I want to stop them launching rockets, but they have thousands of them. So I'll get here a few, 10, 20. They will have others. And there will be civilians killed. Every time civilians are killed, this deteriorates the situation, and we don't want civilians to be killed. We don't really believe that we will win the minds and hearts of the other side. That's one difference, I think, from the previous discussion. But we do want, at least, we don't want them to be killed, and we do hope that in the future we might have these contacts. We also don't want this animosity against us, and we also don't want them to be killed, and we also know it will be used against us. So many civilians killed is bad. Launches are important but not very critical. Okay, next. Homes of civilian persons. Oh, this is good. This is good. This will affect their motivation. No civilians will be killed. It's a very good target. And if it can make them get out and we can get them, that's quite a good consideration. Enemy civilian infrastructure, or these symbols, that's an excellent target. Excellent target. That really hurts them where we want them to get them. The other side, yeah, okay. The other side is really, it influences, it has an impact. They know that they will lose these civilian infrastructures, they will be weakened. So that's a very good target, and no civilian will be killed. Oh, I didn't mention, it says we can attack these at night when there's nobody there. And no civilian will be killed or even injured, maybe slightly injured, maybe one, but God. Enemy headquarters in hospitals, that's a very important military target. But as an operational issue, it's a very problematic one. We have two problems here. First of all, there will be many civilians killed. This, again, it's against our interest. It will be shown again around the world that we harmed a hospital and many civilians and babies, and the pictures will be terrible. It will have an impact. It might lead the world to force us to stop the operation that we don't want to stop yet. And also, if we take away the main hospital, we have to find an alternative. It will be our responsibility to find an alternative. So what, we'll have to bring a field hospital. So this is a very important target, but a very problematic one operatively. Okay, so he says, let's see. So number one, okay, take the enemy civilian infrastructure. Number two, the homes. Number three, the launches. Number four, the enemy headquarters. This is what the commander wants. Okay, now the legal advisor. The legal advisor says, let me look. Launches in residential house. Well, it's clearly a military objective. My main problem is here proportionality. There is an issue. Each launcher is not such a big, such an important target, but so maybe if I look at each one separately, the proportionality analysis I will have a problem with, but if I look at all of them in aggregate and I understand it, will be an overall attack, so I can stretch proportionality, maybe, I don't know. Afterwards, the world might say, no, that's not the standard, so I'm not sure, but I hope that it is okay, that it is sound to say that I can look at the proportionality of all the attack of these launches and all the proportionality of what will be harmed, and then it is proportionate. It's your decision, Commander. I'm just telling you the question mark, so that's a possible one. Homes of senior operatives, problem. Distinction, these are these homes. If they just lived there, these are civilian objects. You cannot attack them, even if there's no civilian around. If they were connected to their activities, if they have their unique, if they have arms there, that they store, if it was a command center, so maybe we can say that it's a lawful target, but you have to bring me more intelligence on that. 3, enemy civilian. No. This is very problematic. These are civilian objects, and the fact that they contribute to the effort, the war-sustaining effort, to the combat effort is not enough today, except if you accept the effects-based targeting. So if we go on that quite difficult doctrinal basis, maybe you can say that it passes the distinction, but it's difficult. The Americans said it, then the Americans also stopped saying it. The other part of the world don't like it, so it's a problem. And the enemy headquarters in the hospital, well, this is an excellent military objective. Yes, hospitals have a special protection, so you need to warn them first to stop their military activity. If they continue, then it becomes a military objective. Now we have to measure proportionality. Wow, many civilians will be harmed. But if you say this will obstruct completely their ability to act, all their main commanders will go, the command and control center will go, this might be proportionate. So here's the legal analysis. The hospital is the easiest one legally. The launches in residential houses, number 2, because it's a question of proportionality. How do you weigh it? Homes of senior operatives, very problematic, but we need some link to. And the enemy civilian infrastructure really doesn't pass distinction, quite problematic. So just to show you the differences between what the commander might want and the minister and the prime minister and the legal advisor. And now, I am not saying, the conclusion is not that the laws are not suitable or the IHL is irrelevant. It is relevant, these are the laws, and we have to abide by the rules. I'll say whether we like it or not, okay, because the alternative is to lose our respect to the law. If we start saying these rules are not applicable and there's no other rules applicable, that will be a problem. Yes, it's my last sentence. So the rules are applicable, and the rules are relevant, but the rules do develop, and the rules should be interpreted and can be interpreted with the development of the understanding of the challenges. And when we interpret the rules and when we think and evaluate operational issues, we need also to understand the operational reality and where sometimes they don't always go together. Thank you.